I remember landing at Sydney Airport and standing by the carousels waiting for the luggage. At 7 o'clock in the morning, the airport was awash with moving bodies, all in a rush to their next destination and wanting to be the first to get their bags off the carousel. It was like the central train station in Cairo, but without the many different merchants jostling for attention and unceremoniously shoving handfuls of merchandise in everyone's faces. The people here looked different to those back in Egypt. I couldn't understand much of what was being said around me and only picked up the odd word or two from people who had just stepped off the same plane as us. I felt very small and fragile between the legs of those crowded around me. Most appeared focused on things other than their present surroundings, and I sensed a real danger in potentially being crushed. It was not long before I heard the carousel belt we were loitering around begin to move. We jumped up and looked at the hole in the wall, waiting. Mum had explained that the big bags with all our clothes would soon appear and we would need to pull them off the belt. We were ready. As suitcase after suitcase began to emerge, I wrinkled my nose at the mix of new rubber from the belt and the strong and impatient odour of perspiration. It wasn't just our clothes in those suitcases. They contained everything we owned. Before we left, Mum had also purchased a green leather coat and a gold locket that held a tiny copy of the Holy Quran. Essentially, these were the only possessions my parents' savings could buy. Carrying Muhammad in her arms, Mum shielded her 1-year-old from the busy world we now found ourselves in. Hassan and I hung on to her green coat so tightly that our knuckles were white with tension. Muhammad looked a whole lot more comfortable and safe than Hassan and I felt, with so many strange bodies scraping by us and pushing us around. At one point, I thought Hassan was going to cry, and the very sight of his face made me start to panic. I drew him even closer to me and patted his back in an attempt to reassure him and myself that everything would be okay. Mum had a way of catastrophising the potential consequences in any given situation. "You'll be lost forever, with no one to look after you," she'd said, warning us many times of the perils of becoming separated from her. Lost and on our own, starving and dying a slow death on the streets of a strange land. That would be the scenario unless, of course, we were murdered more quickly. We understood. I couldn't help myself staring at the people around me. Many were very fair, with colourful eyes and light hair. It was so weird. Occasionally someone caught my eye and I'd look away. Some threw kind smiles our way. Others, probably as intrigued by our appearance as I was by theirs, observed us from a distance. I suspect we looked pretty cute with our chubby cheeks, olive skin and curly black hair. Hassan and I each carried our own piece of hand luggage that contained a few activities to keep us busy on the long flight and our personal baby toilet trainers. Yes, those little plastic bowls. Thinking back, I wonder if maybe the social worker and Mum reasoned that keeping things as familiar as possible would somehow make the trip easier. I don't think they did, and it was really difficult carrying those large handbags. Apart from that, I don't think we used anything from the bags. The colourful books and pencils the stewards gave us on the plane were much more interesting. And as it turned out, the big toilets in the airports and on the plane were more practical, even though we had to grab around Mum's knees so we didn't fall in. An adult and 3 children crammed together into one tiny cubicle certainly made for some interesting scenarios, not to mention smelly ones. The overwhelm of our first plane trip and the excitement of seeing Dad again meant we ate nothing all the way to Singapore. We just couldn't. It wasn't until we were on the flight from Singapore to Sydney that we finally ate, polishing off everything the stewards put in front of us. Mum's delight and relief, however, quickly turned into shock upon the discovery that we'd eaten pork.